How loud is that? Oh my God, it's like, that's going to be the first thing on the recording. How loud is that? Okay, dokie. Right. So, shock, hey? Shock, shock, shock. Harry, can I just ask, was that also what was going on for you, or was it a separate thing?
Yeah, no, it's definitely the COVID thing. Just like very angry and just feeling like I want to rebel, like you said, and just fight back against all this because we're literally having our rights taken away from us and we're just letting it happen. So
Yep, yep, definitely. That would be why it's your heart that was the energy was coming mostly from your heart. Shock you would normally expect to be in your base, but it was coming from the heart. And that's because our hearts get well, angry, I guess. It's still that sensation of anger, but our hearts react with often heat, and it can fire us up, you know. So we'll have a look at that as well. Thank you.
And can I just ask you a quick something? So I was
Mike, can you just speak up a wee bit? I'm just having a bit of trouble hearing you.
So I was just wondering because I was thinking about it. So I only learned the news tonight, right, from my family. I didn't check news through the day today, and but this afternoon I was actually just angry about just what we're dealing with in Sydney, and I was thinking in terms spiritual from a spirituality teaching perspective, and you teach a lot as well about acceptance and all of that, and I was thinking, acceptance in a noble way. I was thinking about it, but I was also trying to think about, is acceptance the appropriate response right now? I'm not talking about the French stuff, just general, or not. And I was thinking, well, that's just me, and maybe I guess I just kind of would like you to tell me if I'm completely off there. But I think accepting what's happening, which is basically a complete ripoff for freedom and her rights and all of that, I don't think that's okay to just stay there and be okay with it. And at the same time, I'm not too sure what we can do. But I guess the lack of public debate, this, open transparency, open transparent conversation, that's very upsetting because if 18 months ago or 2 years ago, we would have said to people in the world, you know, you won't see your family, you'll be forced into being vaccinated, you'll be stuck into your home. Um, People will have never, ever, ever believed it. And if we say nothing, what's ahead of us for the next 18 months or further? You know what I mean? It's like, and I'm thinking, we can't just accept that, can we? Like, I don't know, that's the dilemma I have. And at the same time, what do you even fight against? If there was a fight to fight, where do you go? What do you do? Who do you speak to?
Yeah, I definitely hear you, Mahi. And I mean, I know myself. Like, I mean, we have reactions, right? And our reactions are our response to whatever it is we perceive that's happening. And there's no doubt there's a loss of freedom here. There's no doubt about that at all. I think there are two things. One is acceptance. So we have to accept the situation, and then we have to decide, okay, am I willing to let this be my level of acceptance? And often it isn't. I've been contemplating this week, and I'm just going to just apologise to Sandy in advance, right? Because I feel that with all that's happening in the world, the movement of women to come towards empowerment is massive because the masculine has gotten way out of hand and created this scenario, because this is not a feminine creation. This is definitely a masculine creation. And I'm not saying that, like, it's not about putting men down. It's just that men are often involved in warlike tactics and they look for competitiveness, and their nature is slightly different to women. And as women, we're only really just starting to wake up to as women, we're different. We are not the same species as men. We're not anything like men. We don't go looking for competition. We don't go looking for war. Like, if the world was run by women, it wouldn't be the way it is now. And so, even although all of us here, we've all been waking up for a very long time. I've been at this for 30 years at least. But we're coming to like a crucial point. So it's really important that we understand vibration. It's really important that even when we're distressed, even when we want to take action. And I say take action. If you feel moved to take action and protest, I say take action. Because if we sit back and do nothing, then we're allowing that regime of war and that anything goes kind of thing, we're allowing it to carry on. So even although has to be a level of acceptance, that doesn't mean to say that we shouldn't take action and we should protest because we believe in our protest. That's passion. That's not the same thing. And I think, like, if you look, how the hell did the world get so out of whack? It is because women were put down. It's because the feminine was not allowed, and it was put down, and that's gone on for 2,500 years, right? So we're at the forefront of something that's very different, and don't be mistaking it for anything else. Like, this is a pointy end of something. And so we have to, as women, go, no, you can't vaccinate all my children. I have a child with this, or no, you can't. And it is always and always has been and always will be. It's the women who bring that forth, that we don't want that for our offspring. And it's such an urge within us that it's why we get to the protest point. And that's normal, that's natural, that's what it means to be a woman, because we are the protectors of the future. We're the protectors of the children. Whereas men often get involved in very busy stuff, and they haven't historically been the protectors of the children. And that's why we hear all these things going on. So don't be underestimating how important it is for you to hold your vibration. And when you're somebody that does spiritual practices, you have to accept. And this can be hard because we're all just going about our ordinary, everyday business, being ordinary women, doing what we're doing. But at the same time, if doing practice is an extraordinary thing to be doing. It's a very small percentage of people across the world. It's tiny compared to the rest of the people of the world that are doing spiritual practices, that are doing things like this. So we have to believe in ourselves that, one, our inner work makes a difference, holding our vibration makes a difference, and that we are not just going to lie down and take it. Because when we do nothing, you've all heard that saying, all it takes for evil to survive is for good men to do nothing. Well, it's women, isn't it? All it takes for it to go ahead without any protest is that we just all cave in and go, yeah, sure, why don't you vaccinate my 1-month-old child? Like, it's not acceptable. And when we know that it's not acceptable, and we can hold that within our bodies and hold our vibration, we're making a difference. And collectively, it's so much more important than it's ever been. So don't be underestimating what you're doing. Even if you're really, really regular with your practice, is fantastic. If you do it now and again, fantastic. If you do it once in a blue moon, even that's better than not doing it, because what we're doing is we're changing the consciousness at which things are operating. That doesn't move quickly. It doesn't move quickly. Like, it's only 80 years since women couldn't vote. It's not a huge big thing. We have to maintain that. And what happens in that, so I'm just going to, it's like a warning thing, is that things that you've previously accepted as being okay, it will rile you, it will push your button probably more than it has done before. And that is when you're being tested, and that's when you've got to rise to the occasion, where you go and do something for yourself, or you join a group, or you do something, because you have to be taking action, whatever that action. So for me, meditating is an active thing. Like, I meditate, like working with a group like this, it's an active thing. So, you have to work out where your action is going to be. And definitely for lots of women, that action is going to be actual physical protests and that kind of thing. Yeah. Does that make sense? Does that help, Mahi? Yeah. So remember your vibration, but don't just fall into it and allow it. Like, the reaction is real. One of the things that I sometimes say to people is, when I started on my spiritual path, it's a long time ago, I thought I was going to get nicer and nicer. Like, I thought I was going to be so lovely, and always be lovely. And it has been a completely the opposite of that, is that I'm now more like a warrior kind of person. And I just can't allow, when my boundaries are pushed, I can't see nothing anymore. Whereas before I would have inwardly gone, oh, I can't say anything, you know, I'm a woman, or whatever the internal construct would have been. And I've spent 30 years destroying the inner construct that I had because I didn't like it. Because my inner construct was that I should be seen and not heard, and that men were in charge, and I don't like that. So yeah, so that's why I apologise to Sandy in advance, because yeah, it's going to be a bit of a rant. So, how's that sitting with people? So I've got to tell you, the heart chakra now is pounding, like really, really pounding, and there is a lump in the heart chakra, which we kind of did this last week as well, which was that we had a grudge, because remember I played Kiri. I don't know if you were on. I think everybody here was on last week, but so it's the same. It's basically, it's like similar to what we had last week, except that there's a new level of what's the word? Angst is the word that's coming, but there's a new level of rage, really. So you know how I spoke about like holding a grudge. Do you remember that last week, speaking about holding a grudge? So for women, we have to look at, are we holding a grudge against the men who have created this shit situation that we're all now living with, and their constant need to, I don't know, create biological warfare, whatever they're up to, you know? And that grudge, we have to shift the grudge, because if we're in grudge against the masculine, or if we're in grudge against the scientists and all that kind of thing, then we're not being the divine flow. And we have to get to be in the divine flow, not accepting the situation, not necessarily, but this is the time, as Catherine's just saying, to keep our vibration high. You know, one of the decisions I made during the week was that I am not going to buy anything that's made in China. Nothing. Yeah, even when I'm in the supermarket, I'm not going to buy anything that's made in China, because you'll notice that as this has become a bigger thing, where its origins and stuff, it's all hidden away again. You know, it's not being brought to the forefront. The public are not being really let in on a lot of this stuff. Anyway, right, we go. Aye. Oh, the rage in me sometimes is just uncontrollable, let me tell you. That bloody inner world sometimes. Here we go. I have to get my shirt off. So when that comes in like that, the heat goes woof. So if you've got a lot of heat, girls. Right, take no prisoners. That's the way of it now. So when I say that, what I mean is all of us that are doing the work, right? When I say take no prisoners, it means that any energies that we are holding that are being complacent, allowing, where it's not actually acceptance, where it's, all of that has to be shifted. That's why we're here. So we come together to shift it, not to sit in it. Does that make sense? Right. Here we go then. Okay, so take a deep breath in and release through the heart chakra. So if you know good men, and I know that certainly some of you here do know good men, and even if those men have issues, but just think about the good men that you know. And just let yourself just tune into the fact that there's a lot of good men who have just also not known what to do, just like we haven't known what to do, how to stop these things. There's a lot of good men in that same situation. And just being aware of any fear that you have coming up. Fear of loss of liberty in particular. And just being aware of some of the subtleties around this taking of liberties by governments and decision makers. And just being aware, here we go, just being aware that every single one of these decisions is made by people. It's not some mass unknown consciousness. Ultimately, whether we could do it in an inner world way or not, ultimately we would get down to people who have taken decisions that are really against humanity. Just be aware in your heart, and just being aware of, you know, the either Xena warrior woman who's from an ancient time ago, or the new one without that, what is that called? Oh, what's it called, Gilla? It's Wonder Woman, isn't it? But the new one where she's a really empowered woman. And then just being aware of the feminine nature and the nature of women as mother. So whether you have children or not, it's nothing to do with that. Just being aware of women as mother, and being aware of the earth as mother as well. And just being aware of the rage within the mother, especially in the earth, at what her children are doing to her children and to her body, which is the land. And if you feel rage, just allow it. So the rage for me is definitely in my heart, which is for me, it's like, how could people be so stupid as to create this that has been created? How could we ever have been so stupid? How could we ever have allowed this to happen? And when I look at that within myself, what I see is that complacency of, you know, it'll be okay. And probably to some extent, I'm also aware of not holding myself completely accountable for where I have had big reactions and haven't spoken up, where I have chosen to just say nothing because that was my training. And just being aware that when we are complacent, we are allowing. So just being aware that allowing and accepting are two very, very different things. So allowing these things to take place, because it seemed to me that my role as a woman was to say nothing. But just being aware of where you can feel you maybe haven't taken responsibility. And it's fine if it's in direct areas of your own life, and it's also fine if it's in that wider perspective. It's just as valid to feel it in your own life as it is to feel it in the wider collective. And it will automatically cross both barriers, regardless of which one you're in. And just being aware that if we look to that, at some point, real people, real human beings have made these decisions to create the virus for whatever reason that we can't necessarily fathom, but the decision has been made to create that. And then people have gone along with it, scientists, even if they were scared of what they were making. And then being aware of all the people who have died from the virus, and being aware of all of the people who have been ill from the virus, and being aware of the whole of the world, and especially places that you're very directly connected with. So Mahi, France, me, Scotland, all of the places. If you've come from another place of origin, like if your parents were from the UK or your grandparents and they now live in Australia, just being aware of the culture, the cultural diversity in Australia, which means that we will definitely be representing all the countries of the globe. Australia is such a diverse community. So that's good. Just take a breath in through your crown and then release out through your crown. And if you can still feel the rage, allow it, but see if you can shift it upwards towards your heart so that the rage actually becomes in the heart. And that's where we're going to try and move on from. So where there's rage, it's always something that we've been allowing that we're not really in agreement with. Same thing with anger. It's always us allowing things to happen that we're not really in agreement with. But we become silenced for whatever reason. And just being aware that that strategy, whatever it may be within us, where we have allowed ourselves to be silent, can't continue. We have to speak up. We have to take individual and collective responsibility for how this pans out. Just being aware of the politicians that we know, in particular Gladys Berejiklian and Scott Morrison, and just being aware of them, and that we are like a board, and we're going to call on the Carmeric board to hold accountable all of these decision makers who are taking people's liberties into their hands and who think they have the right to do that. We take a big breath in and just release through the chest. And just being aware of the measure of force that is being used. And most of us would know a little bit, at least, about the world wars, World War I and World War II. And make no mistake, this is a war. It's just a different kind of war. That's good. It's really starting to move into the heart, which is, we need to get it into the heart so we can shift it better. And now just being aware again of Mother Earth, Gaia, or Parameshwari, whatever you call Mother Earth. And just being aware of yourself as a woman on the earth, or a man on the earth. And just being aware of the tears of the mother. And the tears of the mother in the beginning of creation created all of the water on earth. But just being aware of the mother, of the earth. And just being aware of, so Gaia, let's be aware of her first. So she's also known as Parameshwari. And then I want you to be aware of the goddess Pele, who is the Hawaiian goddess and is completely ferocious, and who creates volcanoes and spews forth fire and destroys everything in her path. And in some ways, what we are needing to do is to harness the energy that is Pele, to harness the ferocious volcanic energy within us, and use it, point it in the right direction that we feel is where we can make a difference. And just being aware of the energies of frustration, shock and anger. Take a big breath in, just let yourself be aware of where you might be feeling frustrated, shock or anger. And just being aware also of any energy of agitation or aggravation. That's great, that's really good. It's a big shift moving. Now again, just be aware of the good men that you know. And being aware of particularly relationships where you know you feel equal, where the masculine and feminine is balanced. And just being aware of the energy of balance. So I'm going to play a song, which is the Mula Mantra, which is Om Sarva Mangala Mangale Shive Sarvatha Shatike. Just breathing that in. And I want you just to, so it might feel uncomfortable. Now I know this is meditation, we're all meant to be relaxed, but my experience often is when you're using your warrior energy, it's not the same experience as if you're just fully relaxing into meditation. There's an active component. Okay, I'm just going to put this music on. And taking a deep breath in and pull the energy down and into you. Oops. And just being aware of Sri Shakti Amma. And just being aware of the goddess Narayani, which is the three parts of the goddess, Durga, Lakshmi and Sarasvati. And just being aware in particular of Durga and the courage of Durga. And then being aware of Sarasvati, who is the goddess of creation. And then being aware of Lakshmi, who is everything. Everything that's ever been created must kind of come to Lakshmi. And then just being aware of the masculine principles of that, which is Shiva, Vishnu, and Brahman. And just in particular, just being aware of Vishnu. Vishnu is the maintaining energy, the energy of maintaining. Okay, just to think about, why do we pursue a spiritual path? Why have you pursued the spiritual path? What is it about you that has that understanding that the life of spirit is somehow important? The life of your spirit is the reason for the incarnation. And just being aware of Sri Shakti Amma, and just being aware that we ask for help of these great beings and our good fortune of being on a spiritual path. And again, being aware of the thousands, millions of people who are not on an active spiritual path like we all are. And just being aware of the blessing to be on an active spiritual path. Now, whether you're as active as I am or not, doesn't matter. Just the fact that you're on an active spiritual path. Being aware of your own activity and how long you've been doing it. Everybody here has been doing it for quite some time. And just realizing it's a zero competition area. It's simply bringing out the goodness in you, the part of you that is the goodest part of self. And just being aware that that good part of you, the goodest part, is not passive. It doesn't just lie down and let people do whatever. It's not a passive part of self, it's a very active part of self. It's the part of self that knows the difference between right and wrong. It's the part of self that can evaluate right and wrong. The part of self that understands deeper reasonings than we can even think of or even conceive of. Some of our understanding is simply purely intuitive, pure knowing, pure clear knowing. And tune into that part of self that has that pure clear knowing. That is a part of each and every one of us. That we all have this part of self. And encourage that part of self to come forward. Encourage that part of self to have a voice, to speak up, to say what needs to be said, to make a difference. And just be aware that this part of self is never a part that gets angry. It's not anger, it's drive, it's motivation, it's passion. It's not driven through anger. It's driven through, if anything, it's driven through compassion. And often the easiest way to tap into compassion is to think of the great ones who assist us. So there are a lot of the feminine goddesses assisting tonight. Mother Mary, Bridget, there's a few of them there. And there's also a whole lot of ancestral women. So just being aware of your ancestral women, your individual ancestral women, and then being aware of the collective of my ancestral wisdom and your ancestral wisdom, and all of the keepers of these wisdoms, and then be aware of the whole group of women. So even for Sandy, just focusing on the women, just the women. And just being aware of that, enough is enough. And being aware of that divine feminine rising. And that divine feminine rising is that wise part of self. And just let that part of self come forward, encourage her forward. Encourage her forward into your active daily life. And when you have a sense of her, I want you to just start to relax into her, into that part of self. So she often, well, she looks to me like a wisdom keeper. She holds instruments of divinity. Instruments of divinity. So you might see her holding like a crystal or a dagger. It might be anything that she's holding. And just being aware of the warrior-like nature of this part of the feminine. And just being aware of Pele. And then be aware of Durga, the courageous mother. And just being aware of the fear-driven society that we're all living within. And just imagine that we form a circle and the energy is facing inwards. And just send all of the energy into a central crystal. It's a very large crystal in the center. When you can perceive that and be part of that, then I want you to turn around so that your hands are facing outwards towards the rest of the fear-driven society. And I want you just to hold your energy as this warrior part of self. And I want you just to send energetic love towards all of the fear. The fear won't like it. And people will be scared. And it's okay that people are scared. Keep sending the energy. And I want you to practice not faltering. To actually just be really steadfast in compassion for everybody who's feeling fear at the moment. Being compassionate towards yourself first. Feeling that compassion within yourself for all that's happening in the world and what a terrible mess we seem to have made of it. And then as you're ready, turning round and sending more love outwards, keeping enough for self, whatever that is for you. Some of you might need to hold on to 70%, 90%, 10%. Don't deplete yourself. It's really, really important that you don't deplete yourself. You should retain more than is enough. So if you thought you needed to retain 60%, then retain 63. It's very exact how that kind of works. So just allow it to work. It's like breathing. You don't really have to do much more than go, okay, I need 60, I'll keep 63. And sending the rest of the energy out, keep dissolving the fear that of whatever's going on in the heads of all these people that make these decisions. Just being aware of the fogginess around their heads. And just gently just send energy to any fogginess or lack of clarity that's going on for all of the politicians, all of the decision makers. Take a big breath in, hold your breath, intend the energy come out through your right hand and send the energy out into the ether, out into all of Sydney, all of Australia, wherever you are, send it out through all of your community. And just keep doing that. If you want to move your hand a little bit, you can do it. Just sending love, energy, compassion energy, whichever's easier. And intending that it disintegrate fear. Fear of loss of liberty. Fear of the virus itself. Fear of the vaccine itself. Take a big breath in. And just release everywhere. Take another deep breath in and release through the back of your head. Just being aware of the amygdala, the pons all of the back of the brain, the primitive brain, which is where the fear emanates from, and stand really steadfast. Of not being driven by fear. Eliminate your own fear, destroy it, and stand steadfast in your own highest vibration of loving self and sending love to the world in the terrible state that we've all gone into. Don't hold any grudges or make judgments or hold it against any particular place or any particular gender. Just being very neutral in your neutral but firm. And just within yourself, just being aware of, I want to just clarify that neutral thing, just being aware that we can't take a stand when we're in neutral. We have to make a stand in an active side. The side that we're all on is the side of love and compassion. And knowing what is right for us as individuals and as a collective. Send more love to the politicians, again, particularly Gladys Berejiklian and Scott Morrison. And just knowing that even if this is a wrong decision, it will create change. Even if this is a right decision, it will create change. It will polarize people and cause people to act differently. Taking a big breath in, release through your right hand again. Okay. I'm just going to relax that a little bit now. Put your hands down if you've been using your hands to send energy. And then just be aware across the back of the shoulder blades and down the arms. And just release through the back of the shoulder blades. And hopefully you'll all know what an old-fashioned yoke looks like. So when, it was always women I think, but used to milk the cows, they would use this wooden yoke across their shoulders, and on either side of it they would carry a pail of milk. So it was a way of carrying more weight across the shoulders. So I want you just to be aware of any yokes. They were mostly wooden, and the pails of milk were held on by ropes. I want you just to be aware of them. So on one level of consciousness, of course, we could be talking about actual milkmaids. And on another level of consciousness, we are talking about the Divine Mother as Gomata and the milk that nourishes all the children. So just being aware, release through the back of the neck and release across the shoulder blades. And just being aware of, even if you have no comprehension of why you incarnated at this time in humanity's evolution, just even if you haven't got an inkling around that, just be aware that you're here for a reason and that you choose to release any yokes or burdens that have ever been placed upon you by humanity or by others of any kind or of any description. Take a big breath in and release out through the back of the shoulder blades. I want you to, if you can, sit up pretty straight so that your spine is straight, and allowing your crown chakra to be in an upright position, and send energy from your crown chakra up towards the heavens, aligning yourself with your higher self, your soul self. So I'm just going to ask for assistance. So I want you to imagine that you're really stretching as much as you can with that. breathe in through the crown and then up and out through the crown. See if you can get your shoulders even straighter. And relax the shoulders down. And just being aware, there's a dispensation about to be given. Just being aware of any family dynamics that have caused you problems and perhaps made you not step up as much as you could have, simply because we're running those old patterns. And just being aware of Mother Mary and Kuan Yin, and just being aware of the divine dispensation to help you to move forward through family dynamics and patterns, to help you be able to step up more into whatever your part is in this divine plan. Take a big breath in and just release through the shoulders, and then breathe in and release through the heart. And there's a big shift in the heart. It doesn't feel nearly as congested as it did. Take another deep breath in, just release through the heart. And just being aware again of all of the good men that you know. Might be fathers, father-in-laws, might be brothers, good men. And just being aware of yourself as a woman, apart from Sandy. And just being aware of that energy of nurture. Let's keep holding on to it. The energy of nurture. And I'm just going to attempt to find another song and another thing that I want to play. And just keep breathing in through the crown. Keep releasing. It's just taking a second to load. Then I want you just to gently start to repeat internally, Om Namo Narayani. Just gently let the pace be set by your own conscious mind. So you might go very slow, or you might go a little bit quicker. So this is about all the maintenance. Somebody just nod at me if it's loud enough. Okay.
May there be peace on earth. May there be love in your heart. May there be peace for all. May there be love in our hearts. Om Shanti Om.
Take a deep breath in, pull the energy down and into you, and just put your hands on your heart. And just hold the love inside yourself for yourself and for all of your reactions, for all of your inner knowing, for all of your inner wisdom, for all of the times when you have spoke up and all of the times when you haven't. It's allowing yourself to just be absolutely peaceful and compassionate towards yourself. And just let yourself just hold that energy, using your hand to just hold the energy just for you. As we give thanks to the Supreme Being, Divine Mother and Divine Father, our souls and our divine selves. We give thanks to all of the great ones for their assistance this evening. We ask that we each have compassion for ourselves and for each other. And we ask that blessings of love, kindness, compassion, and mercy flow out into the world tonight, to all of the people who are shocked, upset, and in fear of the direction that humanity seems to be taking. And we call on all of the great ones who oversee the earth plane to assist us in as many ways as are possible. And we ask that each and every one of us be pulled into the service that most fulfills our heart and helps in the world of humanity. We ask this in full faith. Through the divine grace, so be it. Keep your hands on your heart and just let yourself just be aware of yourself and all the good people that you know, men and women, everybody in the group. And just being aware of all of the leaders that you look up to and all of the leaders that you question. And just being aware of the leadership within yourself, you as a leader. That part of you, is we all have that part of us. And just sending nourishing, loving energy to that part of you that is a leader, that can speak up eloquently with kindness and compassion and passion. We ask that this part be blessed through all time, space, and all planes of existence. And we ask for the intervention of Sri Shakti Amma to assist in all ways possible. We ask this in full faith. Through the divine grace, so be it. And Amma said in one of her messages this week that we don't have to ask the divine for what we need. The divine already knows what we need. We just have to ask for assistance. Just pray for assistance, and it will come in the right form. And just coming back whenever you're ready, wiggle your fingers and toes. So as soon as you come back, I'm going to stop the recording, and the very noisy, loud voice will say this recording is stopped. So I'm just waiting until I can just see that everybody's back. It looks like you're all back. Catherine, I'm assuming you're back. I can't see you yet, but that's okay.